You know, scientific papers don't usually open with a high-speed chase and drawn weapons, but this isn't your usual scientific paper. Not at all. This is an absolutely incredible story of botanical discovery that kicks off in one of the most dangerous places on Earth. So, picture this. It's late July 2002. You're deep in a remote part of northern Kenya, an area known for being, well, pretty unstable. The whole point of the trip is to study plants, but the reality on the ground, it's about to get way more complicated. The author of this paper, a botanist named Tom McCoy, was traveling with his two good friends, Maria and Anthony Dodds. They were on the hunt for xerophytes, you know, those super tough dry weather plants like aloes, but their expedition was about to take a very, very sharp turn. And bam! They hit a military roadblock. The soldiers there were crystal clear. This road is closed, no exceptions. And as they were about to find out, there was a really, really good reason for it. It turns out, just the day before, a bus had been held up at gunpoint. The gunmen had vanished back into the bush and were still out there somewhere. The soldiers were just trying to stop another tragedy from happening. But they didn't just turn around. McCoy's friends, who were both Kenyan, started to plead their case. They explained, look, we're not tourists, we're researchers, and we're willing to go on at our own risk. And after a pretty tense negotiation, the soldiers a bit reluctantly let them pass. So they'd only driven a few kilometers past that checkpoint when, and you can't make this up, another truck comes barreling towards them from the other direction. And who's driving it? None other than a fellow botanist and expert on East Africa, Gilfrid Powys. So they're waving, they're honking their horn, but Powys just doesn't see them and speeds right on by. So what do? They slam on the brakes, whip their truck around, and start this crazy high-speed chase to catch up with their friend, heading directly back toward the military roadblock they just spent all that time talking their way through. The soldiers just see these two trucks racing towards them at full speed. They think it's an ambush, that McCoy and his friends are being chased by the very gunmen they were just warned about. So they spring into action, weapons drawn, pointed right at them. It took a long, very tense moment to get everyone to calm down and explain they were just trying to say hi to a buddy. So you have to ask yourself, right? After all that chaos, that confusion, and that very real danger, what could possibly have been so important? What did Gilfrid Powys have in the back of his truck that brought him to this exact spot? This is what all the fuss was about. Once everybody's heart rates were back to normal, Powys showed them his incredible find, what he called a strange little aloe. He'd collected it from the top of Mount Mataraba, a peak way out in the disputed Aloe Triangle. And right away, McCoy knew this was something special, probably a species totally new to science. Powys explained he'd found these plants growing as cremnophytes. Now, that's just a fancy term for a plant that makes its home on cliff faces, with its stems literally hanging right off the rock ledges. Talk about living life on the edge. In a really generous move, Powys gave several of his specimens to Tom McCoy to study further. So back in his collection, McCoy carefully grew the plants, documented all their unique features, and then confirmed what he suspected all along. This was, without a doubt, a brand new species. He gave it the name Aloe austrosudanica. And the name is actually pretty straightforward. It's a direct nod to its home. Austro means south, and Sudanica, well, for Sudan, honoring its origin in what is now the Republic of South Sudan. So what exactly makes a new species a new species? Well, to figure that out, you have to compare it head-to-head with its closest known relative. And in this case, that's a plant called Aloe clarkei, which lives about 25 kilometers away in Ethiopia. Okay, so let's look closely at the details here. On the left, you've got the edge of an Aloe clarkei leaf with its big white teeth. Now compare that to the new species, austrosudanica, on the right. See how its teeth are way smaller, kind of hooked, and have this distinct reddish-brown color? And this slide, wow, this just illustrates the overall difference perfectly. It's not just a little teeth. The entire leaf of clarkei on the left is way longer. We're talking up to 35 centimeters, and it's a smooth, bright green. The new species on the right is much smaller, maxing out around 15 centimeters, with a rougher texture and that cool gray-green color. This table breaks it all down for us, nice and neat. You can see all those key differences side by side. I mean, besides the leaves and teeth we just looked at, the flowers are a little different in size and color, and get this, even the sap is distinct. The new species has sap that's almost clear, while clarkei has this bright yellow sap. Every single one of these details adds up to a totally separate species.
But why are they so different? I mean, they're not that far apart. The answer isn't just in the plants themselves. It's in the landscape where they live. And it's a classic story of evolution in action.
See, both Aloe austrosudanica on Mount Mataraba and Aloe clarkei on Mount Naita live on what are basically sky islands. These mountains are isolated, they stand alone, and they act as natural barriers. So plants on one mountain can't easily cross the lowlands to, mix and mingle with the plants on the other mountain. And the paper itself puts it perfectly. This lack of what's called gene flow is what allows for new species to arise. Over thousands and thousands of years, these isolated groups of plants just evolve on their own separate paths, adapting to their own little world, until eventually they become completely distinct. This whole story, from the military roadblock all the way to the lab, it's just such a powerful reminder. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Even now, in a world we think we have all mapped out, what other incredible discoveries are just out there, hiding on some remote cliffside, waiting for someone brave enough, or maybe just stubborn enough to find them?